I know I've already reviewed Encanto, and I did talk a little bit about the music there, but I really wanted to take the chance to just discuss some of my favourite songs, really, because I've been listening to the soundtrack a lot, and there are certain songs that I've fallen in love with quite heavily. As I always say when I start to discuss music, I am not musically minded. I love films. If they have a great soundtrack, I will listen to the soundtrack, but not from an analytical perspective. I do not have the vocabulary to pick apart these songs and talk about them as if I were an expert in music. Absolutely not. Just a fan. Very big fan of this, in fact. And I think obviously the first thing that needs to be addressed is the fact that this is from Manuel Miranda, who is just absolutely fantastic with any soundtrack he puts his hand to. And this for me is absolutely his best soundtrack. I know some people will completely have different opinions about that, and there are some of his soundtracks that I've not actually heard all the way through. But obviously, being fond of the film, I'm naturally going to absolutely adore this. And I was going to go through each song individually and talk about them and give some thoughts, but I figured we'd be here all day. I will just highlight the ones that I love and any that I think are overrated. And the one that I think is overrated may be surprising. And I will discuss that one at the end. But I will first of all discuss the ones that I love. It's also worth noting I'm a very big fan of Stephanie Beatriz, and I absolutely love her. So when I found out that she was going to be Mirabel, very, very excited. Then when I first heard the songs from this, her voice just completely blew me away. And that is still very much the case. But all of the other vocalists are fantastic as well. But I still can't get over how incredible her voice sounds and how flexible it is. Her vocal range is insane. And I was watching this lovely discussion between Lin-Manuel Miranda and Stephanie Beatriz on YouTube, and if you haven't seen it, try and find it. Unfortunately, I can't remember what the video was called, but they were discussing the songs together. It was really interesting to listen to. So the songs that I love, it's hard to kind of pick out exact songs that I love because they're all fantastic, but I have to confess, have my personal favourites. I think most of my favourites come early on in the film, and I think that's generally because I prefer the more upbeat tracks as the narrative progresses. Obviously, the songs get a little bit slower and a little bit more emotional because of the nature of the narrative getting a little bit darker and digging a little bit deeper. But there are some emotional songs that I love. In fact, one of my favourites makes me well up and cry pretty much every time I listen to it, particularly if I watch the video on YouTube. But the first one I love, and the first track, is the Family Madrigal. As soon as I heard that, it opens the film, and as soon as I heard that, I just knew straight away that I was going to absolutely adore this film, and thankfully I wasn't wrong. It's sensational. The lyrics are beautiful. It's a fabulous introduction to Mirabel and the kind of character that she is. But it's also an exceptionally great way to tell us the story. She's telling us the story of the family madrigal and how each of them has their own unique gift. And, one of them is basically perfect, one of them's very strong. Her mother heals people with food. We get a really great overview of who the family are, what this narrative is going to be about, and then right at the end of the song, we find out that Mirabel doesn't have her own gift. So straight away through this one song, we know everything we need to know. It's also exceptional. It's very lively, it's very upbeat. Stephanie Beatriz's voice is ridiculous, absolutely fantastic, and one of my favourite Disney songs. It's been a long time since I've had a contemporary Disney song and I've been able to say this is now a favourite. But it absolutely is. The next one that I love, I think, in terms of order, is actually one I'm quite addicted to just now, and that's Surface Pressure. This is sung by Jessica Darrow, and there are two reasons I love it. One, I love how honest the lyrics are, talking about how everybody relies on her and how she's beginning to feel that pressure. Just because somebody is good at doing something, it doesn't mean they want to do it all of the time. And I guess that's kind of something that the family all begin to feel as these cracks begin to appear. But particularly this one, but I love it. I love the dripping and the plinking, and I just love the rhythm of it, and it's just It's so addictive and so meaningful and raw, and yet quite lively as well. And I just think it's the perfect balance. Fabulously sung. Really love it. The third last one that I want to highlight as being a personal favourite is one that a lot of people love, and that's We Don't Talk About Bruno. Let's face it, it's absolutely sensational and it's incredible. Bruno as a character is so fascinating. What I was quite surprised is that when we heard in the Family Madrigal song, we actually learn about why we don't talk about Bruno instantly. We learn that he had a premonition, people didn't like it. It was quite surprising that they kind of addressed that immediately, rather than keeping us in suspense. But I don't think it didn't detract from how interesting it was. I was just quite surprised by that. But the song We Don't Talk About Bruno is amazing. And while for me, the Family Madrigal is my favourite of all of them, I think We Don't Talk About Bruno may be the nation's favourite, if you like. This is the one that I see people talking about the most. And I completely understand why. The fourth one that I want to mention as being a favourite is the only kind of more mellow one here, and that's All of You. And this takes the melody of the Family Madrigal, but switches it up so it's a lot more gentle, a lot more emotional. I can't really talk about what this is about, in case you haven't seen the film, because it comes obviously quite further into the film, but I think it's so beautiful. And there's a lyric in this, the townspeople say, we are not gifted, but we are here for you. And I just think, no, you are gifted. Your gift is your personality, as is Mirabel's. Mirabel has a lot of gifts in many ways, but that line just always chokes me up. And when you see the visuals to go along with it, that's something as well. The on screen, the editing, the timing of everything just is so sensational. The way the sound effects blend in with the music, technically just become part of the music. It's just absolutely incredible, all of them. So those are my favourites. I do want to talk a little bit more about All of You, but one of my favourite lyrics as well is "Stars don't shine, they burn." I absolutely adore that. The lyrics in this are just absolutely exquisite. Again, not surprised. So the one song that I think is overrated is the one that I think is... It works very well when you have the visuals on screen with it. And that's not because it's a foreign language song and I don't understand it otherwise. But for me, you need the visuals for the emotional element. This song is... Now, I'm going to mispronounce this, even though I've listened to the song multiple times. Dos Oruguitas? Dos Oruguitas? I'm going with that, but I'm sure it's incorrect. This is nominated for the Academy Award, and a lot of people seem to like it. And yes, on screen, it's a beautiful way to tell the story, or that part of the story, and it's very moving. But when you listen to it in isolation, personally for me, I don't really feel it. I don't feel the rhythm. I don't understand the lyrics, but that doesn't bother me at all. But I feel like I'm not really in tune with it. It's not bad, absolutely nothing wrong with it. But the intricacy of the composition is nowhere near as triumphant as, well, for me, the Family Madrigal, but indeed Surface Pressure and We Don't Talk About Bruno. They are much stronger songs, in my opinion, and definitely should have been up for the Academy Award. But never mind. There are some other strong songs up and soundtracks up for the Academy Awards, so we will see what happens there. I do think Encanto needs a lot of awards. I hope, as long as it wins Best Animation, and at least some kind of music award. Really, Lin-Manuel just needs his Oscar to get his EGOT. Fingers crossed that it happens. The Encanto soundtrack is absolutely beautiful. I love every second of it. If you haven't seen the film, definitely check it out. If you've seen the film but haven't listened to the soundtrack in isolation, definitely give it a go. I think it will move you in ways that are as strong as, but different to, the way it does in the film. Personally, I just think Encanto is one of the most beautiful films I've seen in a very long time, and the soundtrack is definitely a strong reflection of that.